1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this radcast of the Solution Club at the beginning of the new world. It is so wonderful to see you all here. I am so grateful for everyone participating and for everyone who watches these recordings and submits comments. Thank you. We've been having a bit of an offline, non-recorded conversation addressing some of the stuff that came up in the block party last Friday. As was mentioned, the block party was like 95% super awesome, super positive. And we had, we also had some challenging kind of personal stuff, even some attacks going on. And I want to say publicly, now that we're on recording, number one, I have had conversations, multiple conversations to address that. And the bottom line is that personal attacks will absolutely not be tolerated. If anyone starts attacking anyone else or being hurtful or mean or, any of the stuff that I'll just say is covered in this excellent business book that's written by a Stanford professor whose name escapes me at the moment. But the name of the book, this is a dead serious business book that was written, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago or maybe not that long ago, 15, whatever. The title of the book is The No Asshole Rule. And it's a really, really great book. And in fact, one of the things that's discussed there is that, it's really hard to actually define, I'll just call it assholic behavior. And one of the ways that it's characterized that I really agree with is basically, if you've had a meeting with someone and they're being, unkind to you, the barometer for if that's assholic behavior is simply, do you feel like shit after having met with that person? If you do, guess what? Something's wrong, right? And the whole point of that book, and I experienced this at Microsoft, I read it when I was at Microsoft. I was tempted to raise it in an all company meeting because at Microsoft, we actually have an epidemic of assholes. There's an asshole epidemic at Microsoft and at much of corporate America. Yeah, that's right. It's an epidemic. It's a disease. And at Microsoft, it turned out to be a communicable disease. Right? So if you walked into one of the bathrooms at Microsoft and you saw not one set of legs, but two set of legs inside of a bathroom stall, that's what was going on. They were communicating that disease. Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to be a little funny here. But anyway, so I read that and I've been thinking about it for years because, a lot of times, especially in our current paradigm, which is a paradigm of separation and ego. And I'm going to take more for me and less for you, whether it's credit, whether it's microphone time, whether it's whatever. Actually exhibiting this kind of behavior is in many people's paradigms perfectly consistent with winning at the game of the zero-sum game, the finite game of separation and me over you. Right. So anyway, the bottom line is this is a very real thing and it really needs to be dealt with. So what I want to assure everyone of is, to the very best of my ability, I will not be shy about either calling people out, muting people, or even if necessary, ejecting people to give them a timeout, even if they don't want it, if they're exhibiting any kind of meanness or assholic behavior. Will not be tolerated going forward. I likewise want to apologize for any failings on my part as the leader, moderator of last Friday's block party for not stepping up and doing the right thing when that was the right thing to do. But instead just kind of letting it play and just sort of seeing, I was a little bit deer in the headlights, frankly. I was, it was a 24-hour block party that I was the default de facto leader of. So that was kind of a lot of work. And I'd only slept 3.5 hours the night before and then stayed up all night the next night. So, but anyway, again, it happened, and we've had multiple conversations to deal with it. And I just want to give everyone my assurance that I will do everything I have to do, even if I'm totally uncomfortable doing it. But we will not tolerate any hurtfulness or assholic behavior towards anyone at any time during the block party or the social club or any meetings that I am responsible for that matter. So I hereby declare this a safe space, and I'm whapping my gavel. Bang, safe space. Anyway, we had quite a conversation about that before recording. Melissa, thank you for putting on the headdress to commemorate that. And and I'm just really psyched to be here. So I'm going to go on mute and let anyone share who has anything to share.
I think I'll have this for you, Jamin. So you just put it on and it says caution. We can give a caution in the future. And it's made of single-use plastic, which we also need to stop using.
Very good. Thank you.
You found another use for it.
It's now been upcycled. It's dual-use plastic now.
It looks very good. It's very becoming on you. Brings out, I think yellow is your color, definitely. And I wanted to maybe demonstrate something that we could do more of, which is deep listening or reflective listening. So, Jamin, first of all, I want to share I want to make sure I heard you correctly. What I heard you say was that you were not prepared for the kind of interactions that happened. Maybe you were tired, and you said you were tired, right? And so when these interactions happened, your words, what I heard you say was deers in the headlight. That's such a deers in the headlight, like it's such a vulnerable thing to share, like that you were just frozen. You just didn't know what to do. Jamin, who looks like he would be the person to know what the thing is to do in every moment because you're so smart and compassionate, and I mean, Jamin knows everything, and Jamin always knows the right thing to do. That was kind of like what was going on with my head. And yet you're sharing that you have your vulnerable places, right? And you had shared before also about women, like you were a little bit uneasy about intervening when it came to women going at it, or, you know, it's like you didn't want to be the masculine presence coming in and saying, okay, let's stop. And so I also want to honor that you were really, gosh, you just wanted to do the right thing, and you felt maybe helpless. Like maybe thinking whatever I do, it's not going to be right, so I'll not do anything. Maybe you were hoping Patricia would do something. No, no, that's just kind of joking. But I'll just conclude by saying, I just really appreciate your vulnerability, and I'm very touched, and it helps me to understand you better. And thank you for that, and for apologizing also, and saying I want to do things differently. That, to me, that's a sign of a leader that I want to co-lead and with.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. So grateful for all of you. And you see, it's not just collective intelligence. I'm not too crazy about that word because it doesn't encompass the heart, the soul, the spirit, the love, the compassion. It's, collective period, collective life, collective reality. Anyway. Alrighty. Ray, you had your hand up. Take it away, Ray.
Yeah, I remember, and I think maybe after several hours of discussion that there's probably many of us that were hoping that the situation would be able to right itself, that the ship would be able to correct its path, and it didn't get better. So it's part of it is just we're hopeful. There was a moment when it was decided that this conversation would be brought online and fixed publicly in a recorded environment. So we have the recording to look at. I'm not sure if that was maybe the right decision. Maybe we were all hopeful that it was, and I remember the feeling, okay, good, we're going to get this all solved right now, right here. And I don't think there was a real, feeling that we were going to come to terms. There were still egos that had to be expressed, whether what had happened previously was right or wrong. So we were hopeful. We gave it a shot, but we do have to learn the right path and do establish the rules, and then hopefully we can get people to stick to them. And there was moments where the rules were established and they were ignored.
I do want to say that if I could have done things differently, when I had the opportunity to actively listen to somebody, to understand or to share my feelings about how I'm going to just use a name. I'm going to use a name, Alvin. When Alvin and I had a conflict previously, and then I'm going to call this other person Faye. So Faye wanted me to resolve the problem with this person who I already forgot his name. and so I forgot the name I made up. When I shared my feelings and asked the person to reflect back to me what I said, and he did that very graciously, very well, and then shared his feelings. Well, I wish that instead of me getting overwhelmed and cutting him off, I could have just sat there and listened and just let him say all he needed to say. And then when he was finished, to do my best to reflect back to him. But I was going into my triggers of, too many words. Oh no, he might go on forever and ever, and I'll be here for the end of the time listening. And so I do feel disappointed that I couldn't just be at peace. And I think that contributed to the other person saying, you're controlling the situation. So next time, I know these things I know we're going to do our best to avoid these situations, but I still do want to have the capacity just to sit and take in what somebody's saying without interrupting.
I'd like to add in, because I saw you, Patricia, thank you. First of all, let me just acknowledge and honor that you chose, and it was a choice. It was a conscious choice to own your participation, to self-reflect and say, how did I contribute? Because every interaction is co-created. And we remember that every interaction is co-created. And so to look at ourselves and say, what was my part? What did I contribute to this? So thank you so much, because one of the hardest things to ask people to do is to look in the mirror and say, well, what did I do? Did I do anything? Could I have done something differently? So I just want to honor that. And I do want to address, and I just can't because this is the coach in me, that you went right into judgment of yourself. And that's something that I would love to help you work with, because as soon as you acknowledged it, and I was so proud of you, you went right into judgment and you put yourself down. I'm very disappointed in myself. There's nothing to be disappointed in yourself, honey, because it's just you. And how you show up is a reflection on the outside of the wound that's activated on the inside. There's nothing to be disappointed in because there's nothing to judge. It is what it is. And the fact that you shine light on it and you're aware of it, now that's where the shifts and the transformation can come from. It's just going to that wound, going to that part of your inner child that wound was activated, and then revisiting that and healing. So if anything, it helped you bring awareness to that so that you can go in and work on this part of you, so that whatever happens in the environment around you, once that wound is healed and it comes home back to the heart and it's reintegrated, you've garnered wisdom of it. So now you can engage when that happens again without the feelings and the activation, but you bring that wisdom that you garnered from that experience. So please, judgment, there's nothing to judge yourself on. You are who you are, and you're here, and everything about you is divine and perfect. And just to honor that.
And also, Patricia, I thought that you did really well. From the outside, you looked like you handled yourself well, even though you felt maybe like you triggered the situation worse. You really came across as heartfelt, and at the same time, I thought you did well. So I know inside ourselves, we always are judging ourselves the harshest, but from the outside, and I think the bigger picture, people will see it and they'll just be like, yeah, that happens and you handled yourself well. I think we can move on, because I think there's a lot of cool stuff I'd like to hear about that happened, and you probably don't want to dwell on it anymore, but I just wanted to say that straight up, I felt like you handled yourself and you owned things. You did, you went through a process. It was good. So just wanted to add that.
Awesome. Thank you, Shiloh. Thank you.
I just want to let everyone know I'm glad I was here for this part. I do have to leave in like 3 minutes, so I'm just going to continue on. But I just want to say I love you all and I honor you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm so grateful you're here, sister. So grateful. Mwah. Love you. And I love you.
Thank you for being here, Jackie. I'm going to have to jump off in a few minutes as well. To start work. Patricia, I'll say I really appreciated and admired the way you handled not only the situation we've been talking about, but the block party in general and your support there. So please don't feel bad about yourself in any way. It's been so nice to have your presence. So thank you for being here, and thank everyone for being here. I'm going to have to jump off soon. So this is my goodbye. Thank you, guys.
Awesome, Nolan. Thanks so much. And we'll see you on the Vegan Collective Intelligence meeting at 3:00.
And for anybody that wasn't
absolutely.
there for the block party, don't let it seem like it was this is what it was all about. It was absolutely successful in every way. People joining in from Japan and New Zealand. Great conversations that kind of happened organically. We just went, okay, we've got somebody from Japan who's studying their culture and their language, and we learned about that they have a script specifically for enlightening themselves and collecting intelligence. That totally fit right into the theme of everything. So I think it was in every way a success, and this is exposing a little bit of our cultural forgivingness that got past the point where it needed to be forgiven. So I think that we've learned from that as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All righty. Well, without any hurry, just a question. Are we ready to shift gears and get into, everybody feeling complete at the moment? Okay, good. I'm seeing nothing but thumbs up, so that's great. I would like to talk in general about the block party and part of the inspiration for it. And so I'll just jump in, and I encourage others to just raise your hand and jump in. Let's make this a conversation. So please don't hesitate. Normally we have a queue and all that, but right now let's just kind of make it rapid fire or just free flowing. So just jump in. So this gets back to a sign that some friends of Melissa and I showed us of a picture they took in Costa Rica, and it shows this surfboard that's kind of mounted as a sign, and it says, "The greatest threat to life on Earth is the belief that someone else will fix it, right? And so the block party for me fundamentally is, and Adam got your message there. I'll definitely pass you the mic. Actually, well, yeah, let's hear from Adam first, and then I'll get into the block party proper. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, hey, thanks, Jamin, and hello, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to explain why I haven't been around. I've been working very hard on this project, on, well, not radical collective intelligence. I have my own deal, but so I've been trying to think. I didn't want to get in the way, and I know that our ways of thinking about it kind of conflict a little bit. So I didn't want to get in the way. And, but so I've been thinking about it, and I've been kind of thinking that we might be able to figure out how we can work together, or, you know, because the way of a world without money could be a backup plan. See, in a world without money, or if we, what I'm trying to do is, I'm not trying to get everybody to end their use of money. I'm trying to say that that we can design a new future if we design that future as a world without money. And so and you know, to think that humanity won't go for a world without money. And a lot of people think that, and I can understand why, but it's very, but right now the world is full of people who are kind of like the guy that has the countenance of the guy that stands up and brags that if he got cancer, he would do such and such. And the countenance of the same guy the next day when he walks out of his doctor's office with his terminal diagnosis in his hands. There's a big change in countenance. And as the situations of the world get worse, the countenance of humanity will change. And so I think they will be receptive to a world without money. And if we have it as a backup plan, then we'll have a plan ready to implement when the world is ready. See, with designing as a world without money allows us to make the plan as we should make it, as it needs to be made. We don't make the plan according to how much we can afford. We make the plan according to what's needed, and reducing, and specifically, we make the plan, or at least the way I have it laid out. And I'd be more than willing to, you know, blog on Radish or something. And I mean, the truth is, I'm really bad at promoting, and I've been working and learning, and I've probably put 70 or 80 hours a week on this. And but I'm terrible on promoting, and I'm not getting anywhere. And so I'm going to keep on working as hard as I can. But yes, Shiloh, you want something?
I'll wait till you're done, but I'm very connected with your story, so I'll wait.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to get in your way, but I do want to, I could actually help quite a bit. I've thought about this a lot, and there's reasons why people today act so strange. And so, you know, a lot of it has to do with the way we're raised. Statistics show that 20% of the world holds 90% of the world's wealth. And the top 10% of the world owns 50% of the wealth. So
way more than that.
Yeah, so the world's wealth. So that means that 10% of the world, or 80% of the world lives off of 10% of the world's wealth. So there's a huge difference there. And today there's almost 4.5 billion people on the internet. So making a platform for humanity, and the way I see the platform as being made is it's humanity's platform. It's a place where we can come together and be free from the influences of money. Everybody gets to have one vote. Everybody's equal. And anyway, I'll stop there. I have so much more to say, but I'll just stop there. Thank you.
All righty. Beautiful. Well, Shiloh had your hand up, and then Melissa. Take it away, Shiloh.
Okay. Adam, thank you. I too have been working on a system without money, a totally different way to value all the things that we want in the world. And it is very hard to talk about. I've had people stand up in meetings and just throw their chair down and say, capitalism's king. I don't want anybody else valuing me. And it's threatening. So I'm not trying to threaten capitalism. I'm just saying we can create something different. And so I would love to discuss that with you at any time. I also, during the 24-hour block party, I heard Michael Gallo, is that right? Yeah, talking about just, I guess, myth and new story for humanity. And he's kind of working on a project, it sounds like. I'd like to connect with him. I'll try to connect with him as well, because it is so challenging to deliver a big picture. I mean, I have a great story, but I just am challenged to share it in such a limited amount of time. It's like so huge and encompassing, but yet simple. So I just invite you to maybe check him out as well, and maybe together we can get a good story out there as to how we can have a neutral, universal system that supports all this great work and doesn't necessarily dictate that anyone has to be a certain way. It's a big, huge thing, but I love what you're sharing, and I hope to hear more about it. Melissa?
I think that Gallo has a concept about the ancient people. I mean, he's well aware that like 12,000 years ago, a comet or an asteroid hit our planet. It was actually a number of asteroids hit our planet and wiped out the big animals that we used to live with. And people aren't aware of the huge animals we used to live with. I mean, there were 150-pound beaver and bison that were 14 feet long. I mean, there was a sloth in South America that was 23 feet tall. I mean, there was huge animals. I think we lived in an animal kingdom, and I think we lived as kings and queens in that animal kingdom. I think it was a whole different life, and we had the mindset in that life that could live for 1 million years. So we got hit by that asteroid, and then right after the asteroid hit, well, we went into like this 1,300-year ice age called the Younger Dryas. But after that, we entered the agricultural age. And one thing that's really profound about it is the herding tribes, the hunter-gatherers that turned into not just agricultural, but herded, was over in the Eastern European areas, the Mediterranean areas. And that is the world. If you look at the world today, you'll see that the whole concrete jungle that covers the world comes out of this 20%. It comes out of the East invaded the West. You know, Christopher Columbus, landed on America, he was from Spain. I mean, the cultures that used money. So we grow up in a different world, and when we say that we talk about the world, we're really talking about the 20%. We're not talking about the 80%. I mean, money's power. So that means our 20% has 90% of the power. And I did, you know, simple calculation, if you averaged it, it's a 36-to-1 ratio. For every person in the 20% has 36 times as much power as the person as one person in the 80%. I'm jumping around. I'm sorry. Yep. Yeah, Melissa. Hi.
Hi, Adam. It's really great to see you back. We've been missing you. And I would like to suggest that maybe you and Shiloh, Jamin, on Block Party, this would be a really good topic as something to talk about. Maybe they could join on one of the Fridays in a similar way that Alan Savory and Sailesh or Yetao and Guy McPherson joined in conversation around this, because it is an important one. And also, Adam, I just wanted to say that it's not really about getting in the way, because you're not getting in anybody's way, but I would suggest that you come and join this collective family that's forming, because we are a family now. We're all brothers and sisters here, and we're all working with a common cause to heal life on Earth, save life on Earth. So even though we're all very different ages, backgrounds, colors, opinions, the thing we share is saving life on Earth. This is what we're all working towards, and all doing it in different ways. I use artful activism to do this. Jamin's using collective intelligence. Ray is doing veganism. Kate is doing climate talks. You're doing, and Shiloh, money, etc. So just come and join us. You know, don't be separate. Come and join. Everybody's voice is important now, and the more of us who get together as a collective, the more power. Because money is just a form of energy, but it's not true power. This collective is what's true power. So the more of us, you know, it'll be, we're like a magnet, you know, we've had people from all around the globe join us the last 24 hours on last week. It's very exciting. And I also just wanted to mention someone, he's an anthroposophical doctor. So this means he studied the work of Rudolf Steiner. Most of you probably know who Rudolf Steiner was. His name is Adam Blanning. He's in Colorado, and he was in Oregon giving a talk on the weekend about morality, ethics, and the human soul and where we are going at this time. This is a really exciting time for us, and I really find that this platform that we're all part of now is really working on that. You know, working on ethics, working on morality, working on where are we going as humanity? How are we going to relate to the earth? How are we going to relate to all the other living beings now as our brothers and sisters in this new way? So I'm very excited about this, and I just wanted to share that, and welcome back.
Beautiful. Love it. I want to second Melissa's idea that we have a segment on a world without money on the next Block Party, or whenever folks are ready to lead that. And yeah, Adam.
I'll come. I'll be there this Friday. I couldn't make it last Friday. I was just too busy, but I'll be there.
Awesome. Yeah. No worries. And look, the reason we do it for 24 hours every single Friday is so that people can join when it's good for them to join. Anywhere in the world, there's no discrimination like, oh, it's happening midday here, therefore it's middle of the night in India, and therefore de facto we're discriminating against Indians. No, 24 hours means it covers the full clock, no matter where you are, anywhere around the world. So that's part of the logic and the beauty of it. There's a lot of things I love about the 24-hour part, but I won't go into that now. What I would like to talk about is what I started to talk about a little bit before, is that the single greatest threat to life on Earth is the belief that someone else will fix it. And I want to give kind of a little bit more context around my perspective on that, is that we were all born into this world with a set of living arrangements, economic arrangements, culture, governance, et cetera, et cetera. It creates it's so complex, and there's so much going on. You know, we're born, just remember when you were born into this world, a little baby, and you know, little by little, as more and more of the world was exposed to you, it's just like, whoa, this is a big, complex, bewildering place, and there's a bunch of stuff here I don't like. How the heck do I survive, right? This hyper competitive, you know, world with so much meanness and fighting and just tragedy everywhere. And I think what a lot of people, kind of the bargain that a lot of people struck with life was, all right, you know, all this stuff that's going on, it's, you know, I can't address this. What can I do to survive is do my part. And in my case, being born into a family of engineers, it was basically communicated to me in different ways. Listen, son, the way you're going to make it through life is get a great education, hoard a bunch of knowledge, and then monetize that knowledge. You know, get your piece of the pie, get your slice of the American dream, and you will be fine. And really, that's all you really need to look out for is you, because the rest is just this giant complex mess that's really not your problem. And even though it wasn't said explicitly, the feeling that emerged was it's really the government's problem to take care of the world, or the myriad governments throughout the world. And all I really need to do is, you know, number one, vote every 4 years. And number two, in between those visits to the voting booth, just, you know, be basically a mini sociopath and do the best I can to hoard as much as I can for me, right? And so, you know, here we've been going throughout life, essentially by default, expecting someone else, namely the governments of the world, to fix it, right? And now it's become painfully obvious that the governments of the world are totally dysfunctional, totally broken, very incapable of fixing important things like exponential planetary overheating, as we've seen in Copenhagen, Paris, Madrid, you name the convention, right? It just hasn't worked. And so, Adam, I see you got your hand up. I just want to, let me just conclude this thought, and then I'll pass you the talking stick, is that what we're doing with the social club is we're basically saying, all right, if there is not a single institution or convention of institutions or gathering of institutions or whatever to fix this, who does that then leave? And the short answer is, it's a 2-letter word, us, we, right? It's up to us to come together and do this. And now with video conferencing and other tools and technologies, which all rolled together form radical collective intelligence, or even in some other configuration, I'll just call it collective superintelligence. We are now standing right on the precipice of collective superintelligence. That's what this series of meetings on Tuesday, as well as the new Friday 24-hour block party, those were designed to convene humanity in collective superintelligence. Because no one else is going to fix it but us, and we need a place to gather, and we need tools to gather and communicate and collaborate and record information, transcribe information, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, for those who want to get a really good taste of what I'm talking about, please block off 30 minutes on your calendar. And if you haven't already done so, please watch the 30 minutes of video that is on the Collective Intelligence page on radish.org. So click on the Collective Intelligence banner on radish.org, and therein you will find a link that says 30 minutes of video on radical collective intelligence. Sit through that 30 minutes and you will have a really, really solid understanding of what I'm talking about when I say radical collective intelligence. Anyway, Adam, you had your hand up, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the idea that the government's not doing anything. And I think that what we don't think about is that since 1950, our population of the world has more than tripled. And it's more than doubled since 1972. Since 1972, we've added almost 4 billion people to our planet. That's a big change. I mean, the end of World War II ended in 1945. And that was the last time I think that we were small enough to be movable. So I don't think that, especially here in the United States, I don't think the government could even implement martial law, because we've got too many guns for one thing, and we're too big. I mean, they'd have to nuke us. and I don't know, it's just this way all over the world.
Yeah. So anyway, with the 24-hour block party, the idea is we create a space that's big enough for anyone around the world to be able to join when they can at any point during that 24-hour period. And in these first block parties that we're having, we're really getting connected. We're getting to know each other. We're saying hello to each other and just experimenting and experiencing this new medium. But over time, the big idea is that we go from one video conference room to multiple video conference rooms, ultimately to thousands, and really ultimately millions of parallel conversations addressing each and every one of the problems, solutions, and components of solutions that we need to address in order to solve our problems, starting with the cooling of this exponentially overheating planet. I mean, that is so obvious. It is just a classic case of the frog in the pot of overheating water, except now we've reached the boiling point and there's still denial going on. And I think that there is this, people are still clinging to this idea, however malformed in our minds and in our hearts, that, you know, the powers that be, whoever they are, have this handled, right? And it's actually kind of a scary realization to realize that the powers that be do not have this handled. And this is a runaway train of planetary overheating. And so our fundamental thesis here, mine and colleagues, including many, if not all of you, is that if no institutions or set of institutions, like the United Nations, for example, if no set of institutions has this handled, then we need to handle it, and very, very quickly, or we're all going to die very quickly. So if anyone has a better idea, out with it. Otherwise, come to the block party and let's work together and figure this all out, right? starting with a way of A, stopping the planetary overheating, and B, actually reversing it, both of which are imminently achievable with solar radiation management done at a proper scale. But to do solar radiation management at a proper planetary scale, we need the cooperation of humanity. And if humanity's institutions are blind, literally blind to the fact that we are in the beginning of a planetary collapse right now. See, that's another thing about institutions. Because they're, for an institution that's working, they've got funding, they're paying salaries, you know, they've got their own world is working as far as they're concerned. Take Microsoft, for example. They still think that their world is working. There is an utter resistance to facing the fact that we are actually collapsing, and there may not be a next quarter for Microsoft. They just can't compute that, right? They've got all the future quarters mapped out, growth, profitability, bonuses, all this stuff. Microsoft employees are thinking about redoing their kitchen and adding a second story to their house, or buying a property on one of the beautiful islands here in the Pacific Northwest. And they're so attached to A, what they've accumulated, and B, what they're planning on accumulating, that they literally cannot see the world collapsing around them. So there is an institutional blindness to the collapse that's already begun and is accelerating. And so the bottom line is we have to literally step outside of all these institutions, all of them, and step into communion with each other, which is what we're doing right here, and which is what we do at the block parties, to begin to address this in an organized, systematic way. Not by creating a new institution, but by creating a new modality for humanity to communicate and collaborate and co-create all of the solutions that we need. And among these myriad solutions are going to be solutions to the big question. Okay, Einstein, I agree with you that governments are broken, but what are we going to do with the governments that are currently in power, with their militaries and their control over infrastructure and everything else? Well, that question, that bundle of questions, will be answered along with all the rest of the questions by collective superintelligence. To put it very simply and straightforwardly, the collective superintelligence, as I see it, we are going to orchestrate transformations in government and governance. That's for government institutions. What about the nonprofit sector? They've got all this resource, combined membership of around 1 billion people among the approximately 1 million different nonprofits around the world. Put them all together, they constitute a superpower, but they constitute the most dysfunctional of all superpowers because they can do nothing but fight with each other over resources, right? Each one trying to address their little slice of the world, but doing nothing at all holistically because they can't get it together, right? So my answer to what we're going to do with this dysfunctional superpower of the nonprofit sector is very similar to my answer to what we're going to do with the dysfunctional government sector, which is the collective superintelligence is going to determine how to orchestrate the evolution of the nonprofit sector from this point forward. I mean, what else are we going to do? Let them continue on their destructive path of separation and ego and attachment and inability to grapple with the current collapse and what to do about it? In a world of separation, you get nothing but reductionist little slices of answer that are totally disconnected from everything else. So the bottom line is that this collective superintelligence that we're now manifesting for our planet is going to set about holistically transforming, re-engineering, redesigning, and orchestrating the forward evolution of all institutions, government, nonprofit, academic, private sector, religious sector, you name it. If this were a closeout sale at a big department store, there'd be a giant sign in front that says everything must go and everything must be transformed. All right, we've got some hands up. Adam first, then Melissa. Take it away, Adam.
Did you need to say something, Melissa? I can wait. Okay. Well, she didn't come back on. I'll go ahead. So you want to say something? Okay.
Sorry, I'm between my phone and my computer, and I had a call coming in, so it was like, I love it, Jamin. And what's coming to me when I was listening to you is that all these different voices, so Adam and Shiloh, Ray, Sailesh, you, Nolan, myself, etc., Patricia, what I see as a possibility now is for these kind of, I'm going to call it the triptych, so solar radiation management, which includes, well, collective intelligence seems to be the over umbrella, but radiation management, solar radiation management, veganism and holistic land management, and story. I'm just going to take those three for the moment. What is coming to me is that these different sections of our family, our collective family, can start to work on projects that address one or more of these within the triptych. So, for example, I could imagine, I was going to use my toolkit of art, could really create artful advocacy projects around promoting solar radiation management. I could totally imagine us writing stories, creating a new story for humanity that could filter down through early childhood education, high school, cinema, a lot of different aspects. So that could be Adam, Michael Gallo, any one number of us. So I'm just really starting to see how all of our different gifts and tool sets can start to embellish and expand out these different topics. So I just wanted to mention that because I'm excited about that. Thank you.
You know, Melissa, I could use your art. I mean, if you wanted to do some art, and I could use it for graphics. There are, there's plenty of room there, and people could come together on the platform and do skits and small, 5 or 10 minute skits that would depict what life would be like. I mean, we don't know what it would look like. In order to move into the future, we need to have a vision of what that future looks like. And right now, the only vision we have is a vision of fear, because we all fear the collapse of civilization. Well, if we can have a vision that's of a sustainable future, then that vision will start get lifted up. Humanity will start lifting it up. And what I wanted to reply to you, Jamin, on the people of the world, or the governments, my feeling is that the platform should really reach out to the 80%. Because if you look at all the destruction that's come to the world, it's all come through our 20%. It's all we've used the power of money. Not we. I mean, we're born into this. It's not our fault. But the power of money has caused all this degradation. It has put us, and anthropology says that we lived on the earth as Homo sapiens for 300,000 years before we changed from hunter-gatherers and became civilized and started using money. So everything that I think everything we've learned, so the platform, I think, needs to be it needs to be a place where there are no borders. I mean, humanity doesn't have a place to go and communicate to each other. So we think other people are our enemies. Well, if we could talk to them personally, we probably wouldn't think they were enemies. They're just like us. And the platform will be able to speak without a language barrier. And that, I mean, we're just surrounded by governments and money and forces that restrain us on every side. So the platform could be a place. So I don't think, now I say money is like a poison to humanity. So if that's true, and I think there's really good evidence that it is true, that means that our 20% is also 90%, has 36 more times as under the effects or the influence of the poison than the 80%. So, and then you look at the destruction of the world, it's come from our 20%. You look at the movers and shakers of the world that do the changing, they're doing everything is being done for money. And we don't, so all these borders and stuff that we have to have visas and all this stuff for, humanity needs a place to come together that doesn't have any of that. Thanks.
Well, that's exactly what the Block Party is designed to be a place, a world without borders. Anyone can join. We had people from England, India, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, all across the United States and other countries as well. I mean, and this is just the beginning. I mean, it is literally this place without borders and without any filters. Whoever you are, come and show up. This isn't just, like, somebody asked me, well, why don't you just invite the people who are working on collective intelligence? Well, that would filter out all the people who don't even know what collective intelligence is, right? This needs to be a place where all of humanity can come together. So I'm just echoing what you were saying. Patricia's had her hands up. If you're ready, please take it away, Patricia.
Okay, just a second. Yeah.
And in the meantime, just so you know, I'm going to be feeding the crows out here. So if you want a view of the crows, just watch. Anyway, take it away, Patricia.
Well, we could take a little break while you're feeding the crows. How about if we all breathe a little while you just feed the crows? We like to watch you feed the crows. That's beautiful.
Awesome. And also the crows are here, so I'm going to deliver them my daily sermon. I talk to the crows every day.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Please do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. See, because the crows, they exhibit such a beautiful example of collective intelligence. They are teaching us collective intelligence. So, ladies and gentlemen, behold, hello, Daekwang. Hello, Daekwang. I think the Wi-Fi will carry. See the crows up there? Hello, Daekwang. You're okay, Daekwang. You're okay. So you can see him in the tree there, if you look carefully. I bow, so when I talk to the crows. Hello, Daekwang. Hello, Daekwang. Yeah, no, you're fine. I just wanted to introduce you. These are my friends on the screen here. These are my friends. Just like you guys all talk to each other, I talk with my friends and I tell them all about you. So here, let's get you some food. Got some food for the Daekwangs. Hello, Daekwang. Hello, Daekwang. Hello. Hello, Daekwang. All right. Hello, Daekwang. Yeah, and please continue. Yeah, that's right. And please continue to participate with us. Yeah. See, they participate in our collective intelligence gatherings. And so I always encourage them to keep doing that. Yeah, that's right, Daquan.
It's really important that we
Hello,
love the way you're bringing animals in. It's beautiful.
Daquan.
It's perfect. Gives us a little break.
Yeah. All right. Hello, Daquan. Hello, Daquan.
It's good to look at trees too.
Enjoy the food,
I need to put on my glasses.
Daquan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, back to you, Patricia.
I'm trying to figure out a song. Hello, welcome, whoever you are.
Oh, that's Fred. That's my brother, Fred.
All right.
I have a question real quick. I listened to the entire first hour, not knowing what you were talking about because it was purely, an abstraction. Jamin, is there a recording of the incident?
Well, not just of the incident, there's a recording of the whole 24-hour block party.
Well, I was there for 3 hours.
Awesome. Thank you for being there, Fred.
Yeah.
I'm going to check and see if
I looked it up actually. It was at the end of the one where the myth, Michael Gaia, it started with Michael Gaia. It was 4 hours.
Michael Gaio.
I don't want to digress. Maybe Jamin, you can explain it to me later. You want to do that instead of taking up time?
Oh, that's fine. I'm just checking to see if the recordings are up there on Radish. But anyway, carry on, Patricia, Fred, while I check that.
Okay.
Last thing I would say, I'm sorry, Patricia, is it was really, I felt the last block party was, for me, was the most exciting, stimulating, new meeting that I've attended. I thought it was really great. And I was sorry I had to leave, but I did. And I couldn't stay up all night like Jamin does. It must have gotten pretty crazy.
Which part were you? I know, I was there. I actually, the thing that amazed me the most was that Jamin and Nolan were almost on the we're on the camera a lot, being present. I stayed up all night because Jamin made me. No, I was about no, the last hour I was about to bow out, and Jamin said, "You can't." And I'm so glad I didn't, but because really that was so beautiful. So I just wanted to say yes. I do not understand how they could be present on the camera because I took myself off the camera a lot of the time and just putted around the house or stretched or. So I just want to acknowledge that you guys were there. And it's so good to see you and share. So Fred, you were listening and you wanted to know more. And so
Well, it seemed like a pretty big issue. And it went on for an hour. And I would have liked to have known what you were talking about rather than just purely in the abstract. But I'm sure Jamin can fill me in if it's not visible. Yeah.
No, it's visible. Did you send him a link or anything? Did you find it?
Yeah, I looked on the page. So Nolan hasn't yet uploaded the video recordings from last Friday that we took some time yesterday and this morning to kind of edit and all that, annotate and chunk it out because 24 hours is a lot to just sit back and watch 24 hours of video. So anyway, so it's not uploaded yet. I'm sure it will be later today. Anyway, yes.
I found it. I found it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you
on,
go ahead- yeah.
on the YouTube channel, sure, it's there, but it's there as like one 22-hour chunk of video.
I think it's like 4 videos.
Oh no, thank you. Actually, on the Radish YouTube channel, it's there. It's on the Radish YouTube channel. So
Probably number 2 of 7 or something like that.
It was Michael Gale.
Number 2, segment 2.
I'll find it for you because I found it and I sent it to Jackie to look at. So
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
So how can I send it to you?
oh, actually, it's real simple. If you just go to YouTube and type in the search bar, type in Collective Intelligence Block Party. Just literally go to YouTube, type in search Collective Intelligence Block Party, those 4 words. You will see right at the top all 7 recordings. And later today, there will be up on Radish, not only those same 7 recordings, but those 7 with annotation saying, hey, this recording covers this other recording covers that, etc. It'll all be there later today, but if you can't wait for that, just go to YouTube and type in Collective Intelligence Block Party, and you'll see.
But I'll send him the exact thing if he wants it, and if I can just get his email.
His email is actually up on the screen. In
Right
the lower,
here.
in the lower
It
left
is.
corner.
Okay, I see it. Okay. So I wonder if maybe that might be a good thing to put on this. Oh dear, no, I guess we better not. I actually think that might need to be edited out because that's going to have names on it. That's a discussion I guess we might have privately. So anyway, what I was going to say is, did you feel complete, Fred? All right, good to see you. Well, first of all, I want to just show you my view. And looking at trees and at nature is very healthy, and we're looking at a screen a lot. So maybe we could take little breaks to show people what we're at. So behind me is a beautiful 40-acre lake, and this is what I get to look at whenever I come out my front door. And here's my little garden. That is kind of a hugelkultur garden, and it's just beautiful around here. This is the Ozarks. And I'm just fortunate to be living here near the land that I have that will become the Vegan Visions community eventually. And it will be based on the gift economy. So I just wanted to, when you guys were talking about, or Melissa, you were talking about having working groups or toolkits and things. Now that is what is happening at the Vegan World 2026 on the base camp, that they're having working groups that are coming up with all these resources. It's a place where, and I'm not saying, what I love about Radish is that people who are not vegan can come here and feel comfortable. I'm very much into welcoming everyone. The nice thing about Vegan World 2026 is that vegans can go there and feel really comfortable, and non-vegans are welcome. And as long as they're allies and they're not going to get into arguments about veganism, just like in the future, hopefully people aren't going to come over to Radish and try to persuade people to become vegan. So have you thought about figuring out a way of combining that base camp with the collective intelligence, and that, of course, people are already talking about, I hear rumors over in the base camp, and what base camp is for those of you who don't know, it's a project management system where you can have unlimited people participating, but you need to be added, and people are in working groups, and every working group has it's kind of like an office situation where people can send notices, they can post files, they can just, there's a campfire where anybody can share at any time. And it's the best solution I've ever found for project management. And using this Basecamp, Ruby on Rails was developed. I did a bunch of research on Basecamp before I got involved, and man, they're impressive. And even the creators of Basecamp are so much in alignment with what we're doing. They're very much into a new way of working, a new way of living. So I guess I'd love to figure out how we can take like all the resources and the ideas that we come up with here and get them over to Vegan World 2026, because really having a vegan world is not about everybody eating a plant-based diet. It's about, I mean, eventually we'd like that, but it's really it's 50% is the theory that we need in order to 50% people eating a plant-based diet in order to avert the climate change that could be happening because of animal agriculture. And of course, now I've learned that we need to cool the planet down, and just becoming vegan isn't enough. So I'm glad to learn that. I'm glad to be going between both worlds, so to speak. And so I want to ask you that question, Jamin, but I also want to just mention, Adam, that it was 44 years ago that I first learned about the idea of the debt money system and how the debt money system keeps us all enslaved. And I learned from meeting my now former husband, but very good friend, Cliff Mickelson, who I met in the Garden of Eden. Isn't that nice? I met somebody at the Garden of Eden and we got married there. But the Garden of Eden was this garden that Quincy John Workman built on the side of a barren hillside at San Diego State University. He got their permission to start gardening, and really he used permaculture techniques. And by the time I got there 10 years after he started, there were apricot trees, there were raised beds, there were just, berries. It was really a beautiful place. But Quincy John Workman mainly wanted to promote the idea of a world where giving and receiving happened, and starting with a credit system where people would keep track of their giving and receiving, because in order to move to that world where we just live by the law of giving and receiving, then we first need to keep track and have some accountability. And for a year, Cliff and we decided to move to Arkansas. This is one of the reasons we're in Arkansas. We moved from California to Arkansas. And we were invited to live there on a blueberry farm. And we didn't, and live there in exchange for helping, kind of like the work exchange program that's going on now, like the woofers, the workers on organic farms. And we lived for a whole year on the law of giving and receiving. We lived on $30 a month, and we thrived. And for the next 2 years, we lived on $100 a month because people wanted to give us some money. But we weren't really, I'll just conclude by saying it really worked, but but people were scared because we didn't have things to fall back on. We didn't have, if something happened to us, who would take care of us? I think there were things like that going on. But I'll just say that that's when I first learned about the law of a moneyless society, and I think there's a lot of people working on it, and I want to support you. And I think that if everybody could work full time on this project, as many of us are, because for some reason, we'll be much more successful if we didn't have a need for money. And so I want to go back to my question. How do you see VW, the radish, being grown in the VW26 soil, Jamin, or anybody else who has that answer?
Yeah. Well, first of all, speaking of the radish being grown in Vegan World 2026 soil, when I went to the Vegan World 2026 conference in late October in Arizona and experienced the amazing community there, I was inspired to bring collective intelligence to Vegan World 2026. And I proposed that. I asked Silas's permission. He gave me permission, so I proposed it to the whole conference. Everyone was very supportive. We did a whole breakout session on it, and that was the genesis of Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence, which is the same meeting that we have every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time that we'll have a little later today. And so the Vegan World took that ball and ran with it, and they're developing it into their own thing. And that's exactly what is discussed every week at the Vegan World 2026 Collective Intelligence meetings at 3 p.m. Pacific time, to which everyone is invited, by the way. And so if you're not on the mailing list for that and you want to be, please let me know. Simple as that. Anyway, so they're running with it. And so collective intelligence is growing within the vegan world. And then the Block Party is a much bigger space topic-wise, because it's not just restricted to veganism. It's open to everyone and to all solutions, and is and this echoes my comments earlier. It's all about humanity coming together to take responsibility for saving life on Earth, starting with cooling the planet and starting with a bunch of other things that need to happen in parallel. But if there is one thing that we must not fail on in the coming months, it is getting solar radiation management implemented at planetary scale. And that requires getting a whole bunch of other stuff done as prerequisites to that, including but not limited to getting all of humanity talking about the urgent need for cooling the planet. But again, that gets back to humanity's fundamental resistance to believing, resistance to getting, to acknowledging, to understanding and embracing the fact that collapse is happening, and it's happening exponentially quickly. And we have just such a tight window of time within which to address that. And then combine that fact with the fact that all of our institutions, without any exception that I can think of, are failing us in this regard. In fact, the way that I would personally know that a given institution is not failing us would be that that institution is screaming from the rooftops, humanity, come together and manifest a form of collective superintelligence. That is really the one single action item that to me makes any sense at all, right? Because as individuals, there's only so much we can do. And what we really need is the coordinated actions of millions of people, if not billions, to make collective intelligence happen, to make solar radiation management happen at planetary scale. So we first need collective superintelligence in order to make SRM happen. That's my fundamental thesis. Adam, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to what you're saying. So the way I look at it, we're not there's a large part of humanity that won't go along, but there's also a small part of humanity that will, and that small part is a lot of people. And humanity hasn't had a chance to try yet. I mean, the scientists who are in our 20% are telling us, that there's no answers. Well, so that means that everybody's doomed and we don't even get a chance to try. Well, I think that the platform should give all of humanity. I think the people in the third world have as much right or more right than we do, to have a chance to try. They have a lot to offer. I mean, we don't know how to live. We grow up, we're born into this world of money, and we grow up learning how to survive in this world of money. And I think it gives us the perception that our survival depends on money. So, and then we live in an artificial world too. I mean, we're surrounded by electricity. It's all different. It's not natural. Well, the people that live in the third world countries, they're much closer to nature than we are. They're closer to knowing how to live off the land, and they can teach us things that we never even thought of before, that we don't know how to do. We don't know how to live off the land. Well, they can teach us a lot of stuff. And the platform should be set up so that everybody has something to offer, and so that you don't have to be a genius and know how to. It should be simple to run, is what I'm saying, and we can help them by helping them run the computer models and things like that. But I mean, my feeling is everybody should be included on the topic teams. There should be pretty much a wide mix of people. And there's, I was thinking that, I mean, we are, I agree that solar radiation management and keeping the planet cool is an immediate priority. But there's a whole lot of things. I mean, there's a whole holistic thing. Fixing the world involves everything, including veganism and how we're going to live. We need to have a vision or a picture of the future. And I don't think the reason we don't have I think that the reason we don't have a vision of the future is that of a sustainable future is because we can't figure out how to do it in the world of money. I mean, we can't even institute a carbon tax. We're not joining the treaties. We've been warned. I mean, scientists are telling us what we have to do. The Arctic News blog says that it's full of scientists, and they're blogging all the time, and they say, that we needed to have an 80% reduction of our. I mean, the whole world needs an 80% reduction in its use of fossil fuels by the beginning of 2020. Well, we've already passed that, and we're not doing anything. So in order to have a vision, and this is what I'm trying to do, Fred, since you still don't get it, but if we have a vision by making it as a world without money and not worrying about money, then we can have a vision of the future. We can make the plans, and we can making a plan, or making deciding that everybody's going to become vegan and trying to implement that, that's all fine and good. But it needs to go into a whole set of plans that covers everything, because there's a whole lot more that we need to do than just become vegan. Yeah, thanks.
So Adam, let me just respond to that real quickly. My feeling is, and this is an example Jamin brings up regularly, is the house is on fire. House is burning down right now. We have to figure out how to put the fire out. Unfortunately, I don't know that we have time to envision what we're going to be doing after the fire is put out, because it's a breathtakingly enormous job we're faced with. So, I mean, it's one thing, you know, for an army to invade a country and get there and not know what they're doing once they get there and have defeated the enemy. But this is a different animal. So anyway, I mean, Adam, I salute your effort. I just have a difficult time with all of the projects that need to be integrated to save the planet. I mean, like you have pointed out, there are how many billion people on the planet now? 7 billion people? Getting people, whatever, there are too many of us, and getting everybody to agree to do anything these days, with everything becoming so polarized politically, you know, and whatever, is, and not just here, I mean, all over the world.
That's the thing, is we don't have to get everybody to agree. We don't need everybody to agree. We just need those that want to help to join, to, you know.
Right. But you talk about the 20% who control an inordinate amount of the power through money or whatever, and their stubbornness about, or unwillingness to give it up. I mean, they're not just, what I want to know is, how can we come up with a message that is inviting and not alienating, and explains that, hey, we don't have a choice to screw around anymore, folks. I mean, it's now.
Well, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do on Radish, is to help create a vision of the future, so that we have a complete set of plans. That so, and I
see that as a luxury at the moment, because of, you know, you just reported in that something about has to happen by the beginning of 2020, and it's here, you know. So envisioning a future is problematic. It's like, you know, when the Soviet Union collapses, what are they going to do? There's what did they do? There's a hiatus before the new organizational structure takes place.
Yeah, but see, if you start making the vision, something magical happens.
Okay.
So a magic happens. And what happens is that vision of the future that we have now, which is a vision of fear, starts the vision that we're making of a world without money, that we can do without money. We can make this vision as a world without money. It simplifies it a whole lot. You don't have to put finances in there. It's simple. It really is a lot more simple. And people all over the world will help. So we're not trying to get humanity to change. We're not changing anything in the world that we live in now.
Yeah, you'll have to explain that to me.
I'll tell you what, Patricia's had her hand up for quite some time, and then I've got some stuff I'd like to add to this conversation, Adam and Fred. Yes, Fred.
I have to go.
Okay, great to see you, Fred.
Great to be here. Nice to meet everyone I haven't met. And the block party gets started at what time?
6 o'clock in the morning, 6 a.m. Friday, and it goes for a full 24 hours till 6 a.m. Saturday.
Okay, is Alan going to be there? Do you know? Is he scheduled to be there?
Alan Savory?
Yeah.
He was on this last one. He's
Yeah,
invited.
no, I listened.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be on this next one. He may be traveling, but I'll find out.
Okay. All right, everybody. Goodbye.
All right, Fred. Great to
Keep
see
up the
you.
good work.
See you soon. Thanks.
I'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right, Patricia, take it away.
Well, first I want to reassure you, Adam, that actually on the Vegan World 2026, one of the reasons I feel so encouraged about being on there is that they are developing a holistic plan for a new future. What's it called, Ray? The 7 key principles, or the 7 parts?
Core shifts.
7 core shifts. And of all of the institutions that need to change, including the economic system, that is a whole working group in itself. So I want to reassure you that there is a vision going on there. And Ray, can you reassure me that non-vegans are welcome there, right? Okay. And so maybe, but the beautiful, I mean, of course, people aren't, it isn't going to be as, and what I see is that collective intelligence needs a platform similar to, or a base camp where people can get together and talk after we have conversations, like, and they can, and Adam and Shiloh could head up a working group that's about the economy, where, and you know, we can be just like the base camps can be exchanging information, because our whole, we don't need to bring, you know, yeah, we don't, well,
Hey, Patricia.
yeah.
Rebel Wisdom has a 24-hour constant online Zoom video
Well,
session.
it's,
I haven't joined it yet, but that could be something maybe Radish could do.
yeah, eventually.
I'm not aware of this. They've got a 24-hour
Yeah,
like 24/7?
24/7. That's
No.
my understanding. Yeah, and so you can go on there and you can actually book in times for that, and for discussions, your own discussions.
Oh, that's good to know. And these are the kinds of collective intelligence resources that we need. I mean, one of the things that I like about the working groups in Vegan 2026 is they're asking questions. People have asked questions like, how can we solve this problem or that? And then people can come in and put resources, and it can be captured in one, so it's online in, it's in one place, and we can, and so I would just like to suggest that possibly we extend, if we had a collective intelligence base camp where we had, and anybody could do a working group, and even if there's 2 working groups on the economy because somebody doesn't get along, that would be fine, because they're just gathering the people that feel drawn to them, and they're going about it in the way they want to. And it could be a kind of an open space type thing where, hey, as long as you're fitting in with the respectful discussion and some basic guidelines, which I think we're trying to create on our Vegan World 2026, then although Vegan World 2026 isn't as open as that, because it's come from it came out of a conference, and I don't know, Ray, maybe you can tell me if I wanted to start another group, like I was thinking about some, you know, like if there were a trauma resolution group, how does somebody is that possible to just start that on there? Just curious. How do you
Probably
decide
something for the VCI group
Okay.
to decide upon.
Okay.
It doesn't exist because it wasn't one of the topics that was explored at the Vegan World 2026 conference.
Right.
But there are examples of groups that weren't created there, that though they tended to have a lot of questions. There's 202 questions that were created at the conference, and a lot of them had to do with the acceptance of vegan food. So normalizing vegan food became a study group thereafter.
Yeah, so I would just conclude with saying, is there a chance, Jamin, that we could have a base camp for the radish? Would that be helpful?
It's definitely possible. I love the idea. And I'm just thinking how we might kind of get that started and have it managed. You see, Vegan World 2026 is very blessed in that they have Ray managing and overseeing the whole Vegan World 2026 base camp. So if we had a Ray, I'd say start it tomorrow, right? But we don't have a Ray.
We do have a vegan reflection task force, or that's a task force, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a group or something. I forget if it's a task force or.
Well, it hasn't done anything yet. I've created a space, but it hasn't actually got its legs yet.
Well, are you open?
But wouldn't that be, in lockstep with Radish?
That would definitely be a start. I think what Patricia is talking about is having something that's as full-fledged as the Vegan World 2026 base camp, in that it's not just one group or one task force, but it's a whole ecosystem of groups and task forces. And I think that's what I see Patricia nodding. So that tells me that's what you're thinking, Patricia. And I share that thought and that desire. Now, we could start, is what you're saying, Ray, that we start with the vegan reflection group within base camp, and that would give us at least a beachhead into the world of base camp. And then more generally, we could explore those two worlds kind of coexisting within potentially the same base camp, so we don't have to have two separate communities. I
think the success of your block party is going to demand that eventually we need some sort of way of keeping track of everybody and all this great knowledge, distilling it somewhere. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't eventually have some sort of a base camp system, whether it's the base camp, branded online software as service is irrelevant unless there's connectivity between the two, and then in which case it's great. The nature of Vegan World 2026 obviously has the V word in it, so it's a self-imposed bar of entry for a lot of people. We welcome vegan, non-vegan people to participate. It's just that most people are going to say, well, that's kind of like going to a Pentecostal church when I'm not Pentecostal. You might sit in, but sooner or later they're going to kind of look at you and pass you the collection plate and and maybe put a bit of the evangelical fire into it sitting in front of you. So I think it's more of a self-imposed thing that I asked Silesh, do you think this promoting this 24-hour block party is a good use of my time? Because I spend all of Wednesday, all of Thursday blowing the dust off of Twitter, because I don't use Twitter that much, but I was trying to engage as many people as I could, especially non-vegan people, to engage with that 24-hour block party. I can't say I was very successful in getting people to turn out, but I've got so many conversations on the go explaining what it is, and that it's a weekly thing is going to be a great cycle. That every Friday somebody says something. Go, well, that's a great thing for the block party. Bring it to the block party. Friday night, bring it to the block party. Somebody in Europe, hey, bring it to the block party at midnight our time. I'll be there. Trying to get more people involved in the topics, because the Basecamp topics aren't about, how do we make everybody vegan? Maybe the speciesism group strangely, that one's not one that a lot of people have embraced, partially because it'll be vegans preaching to the vegans. But I mean, it's about nature stewardship, new economy, parenting and education, religious traditions, synergy meditation, Saileish's white paper, which is very deep in the science of climate change and promoting different ideas of how you engage in climate science and what is the biases that are stalling the science through our international communities. All these things, it's related to veganism. Veganism is sort of a filter that you use to apply to everything. And really the word is nonviolence. We're applying nonviolence to our studies, looking at all the violence in our current systems, our systems that are failing, our systems that everybody's starting to recognize, whether you're vegan or not. You recognize the education system's junk. We have to start building things and developing non-violent systems that, in the case of education, don't leave kids behind, right? How hard is that? Everybody wants it. Everybody says no kids left behind. But our system is designed to leave kids behind. That's what it was designed for. It's an obsolete system from the industrial era, where we're deciding who's fit for being management material and who's fit for being workers and who's fit for just being left behind. All these obsolete systems. Let's talk about them. Let's just get all the experts involved, get all the ideas involved, and get the juices flowing, and then we organize it somehow online, because that's where we are. We're online. So to answer that, is there a need for another base camp type thing? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think, I think there's got to be a lot of different ones because I don't think we can just follow one line. I mean, you said that you use veganism as a kind of filter. Well, I don't think the answers have anything to do, or they're not about you and me. They're not about what we've learned, or really what it's all about is we need to provide a sustainable future for the children of the world. Because if we don't do that, then humanity won't continue. So that should be the filter. That all the computer models could be set up so that if your section, say your little area of the world that you live in, if it submits its plan into the model and it says, well, we can live this way. Say they live on a little island and they live from fishing. They're not a farming island. They live from fishing. Well, veganism might not work very well with them. But if they can live sustainably like that, then, and it works in the model, so it produces a sustainable future for their children in the world, then that would be the base, as long as they can meet that requirement.
Adam, I just wanted to, I think I want to reflect back to you what you're saying, so I can understand better. And I think I'm understanding you to say that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, that places like Vegan World 2026 Base Camp, where there's a bunch of people passionately working on a lot of all the issues we can identify to help make the world better. And one of those is veganism. And where vegans really can come together and feel very comfortable under that umbrella. Are you saying that that's not a good idea?
No.
It just sounded that way.
Oh, that's not what I'm trying. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we need an unbiased mediator. Now, no human could be an unbiased mediator. I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that we need to do. So the only way we could have an unbiased mediator would be to have computer programming that was verifiable and program to be non-biased, that it would give us it would give us options for different options, and we would choose what we thought was best, and you know, and we would resubmit our ideas, and as long as our ideas meet the qualification of providing a sustainable future for the children of the world, then that would be, I think that would be the filter.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear you say that, Adam, because that's actually one of the things in the Vegan World 2026 that is important, is that each of these study groups who are studying these 7 solutions to save the world, one of them not being a SRM, because I just that's maybe we need to talk about that. Why isn't that over there? We're still learning about it, but we're trying to create. Every study group has a white paper that's based on factual evidence. And Sailesh Rao, who started this, he helped create the internet. He saw how the internet was created. People asked questions, people wrote white papers. And so we're doing our best, not through a vegan lens. When we go through to parenting, I'm in the parenting group, we're not saying every parent needs to be a vegan. We're saying, well, let's see, science is saying, a lot of scientific studies are saying that attachment parenting is really helpful. And so here's the peer-reviewed scientific studies. In the economics group, where people, in any group, we're gathering the peer-reviewed, proven things, as much proof as we can, that these things would work. And so that's as objective as we can get. And we're not saying that everyone has to be vegan. We're saying, and I know the name sounds like, it does, you know, it sounds like we want to somehow evangelize the world to be vegan, but it is interesting. There's not one study group that's saying, how can we get everybody to be vegan? So I guess I just want to, I just want to reassure you that we're being as objective as possible. And if there, I want, does that give you some reassurance that we're not seeing everything through a vegan filter, and we are being as objective as advisors as we can be?
Well, I'm not against veganism. In fact, Sailesh Rao has caused me to, I'm like 98% vegetarian right now. I'm not vegan yet, or I'm not 100%, but it's not all that easy being 100% in a household where you're the only person that's not eating meat. So, but that doesn't make me good or anything. I've for years I've been the other way. So it's just that I don't know. There's people all over the world, and I don't think we have the right to tell them how they can eat or how they can live or what religion they're going to have or anything like that. I think what we have to do is just give them the options, and then give them and agree that it's not for us. We're building a sustainable future for the children of the world. As long as it meets that qualification, then it's good.
But Adam, are we talking about all the children of the world, or just the children that are in that safely protected bubble of to each their own? We can make our decisions with our food wherever we want. I think that that attitude isn't really compatible with any sort of solutions for the future. It's compatible with a lot of the genocide that our leaders are going to lead us into. That it leads to justifying American consumption rather than questioning it.
Hey, Ray, I would just like to maybe intervene here.
Patricia, he was asking me a question, and you spoke on behalf of Vegan World 2026. I appreciate you contributing, but I said that there is a vegan filter over all of Vegan World 2026, and I actually do mean it. The filter is that we should recognize that there are biases, and everybody understands that veganism is a bias, but nobody understands that meat eating is a bias. And it doesn't hold any more legitimacy because it's universal and everybody supports it. Everybody supports the concept of money. So in that sense, that doesn't make money justified. We have to question the use of money and the existence of money, and we have to be able to have that ability to recognize the violence in our system. And so it's an open door for non-vegans, but I don't think that there's as much latitude as you're claiming that we're looking towards a future where animals can be consumed. There is a speciesism education study group that would definitely include an encouragement that the world needs to go vegan. Now, by the world, it's also important to identify, because Adam mentioned that there are people that living in fishing communities that won't be able to adapt to our vegan agenda, so to speak. I don't really include them in our conversation. This is a decision made by people in countries of privilege who have the ability to choose their diet, choose their impact. So the vegan world isn't really looking to go to the tops of the mountains and to the Arctic poles to convert everybody the same way that a religion might, that all targets are fair. I think that it's really important to reiterate whenever we can that the definition of a vegan world, according to our platform, is that all the 50% of people living in developed nations, in urban centers, self-identify, in other words, choose for themselves to live as vegans and to recognize the rights of animals to live according to their own lives, rather than to what's dictated by human cultures and so forth. Hey, Patricia.
Well, I just wanted to say first, Adam, that I'm really touched that you could share that you were, 98% vegetarian or vegan, and it's really hard, and that you don't have anything against vegans. I just feel encouraged that you feel comfortable, being vulnerable like that. And I'm also hearing that you would like to be ideally a vegan. It sounds like you'd like to if people were more supportive. I just want to check in. I just wanted to clarify, and then I want to say something else.
Well, I think, I personally, I think that, I think money is a poison to humans, and I think it came to us when we started to use animals as the first form of money. I think that somehow a poison entered us. Mm-hmm. And those of us who have the most money are the most poisoned.
Yeah.
So this is why we need to have the 80%. So if 4.5 billion people are on the internet, that's 20% is only like 15 billion or 1.5 billion. So there's a whole lot of people in the third world countries that are on, or the developing countries. But we're not going to get everybody to change. So what I'm saying is we have all these good ideas. Let's put them into a set of plans. So we have a total vision of how to change.
Yeah,
And the magic that happens, let me just finish real quick, because the magic that happens is that at a point, our plans will be filled in so complete and look so good that we'll want, that people will start saying, well, I'd rather live like that than to live in this world of money that we live in.
yeah,
It's dying.
definitely.
So
Definitely.
then that's the time when
Well,
we can have a transition. Instead of having the collapse of civilization,
yeah,
then we can have a transition into a new sustainable world while backup systems are in place.
yeah, I think we're so much in agreement. And I'm sorry, Ray, if it sounded like I've got to laugh a little because it is a
Oh,
little.
maybe explain again. Maybe I got it wrong. Explain the vegan filter. What your interpretation of what that would mean?
Well, I just don't think that it should be based on a vegan filter or
Well, you've applied a money filter, haven't you? Money is poison. That's your stance.
no.
Well,
So and I agree with you. I put the money filter on everything. I mentioned earlier in the comments. We look at all the problems of our society, all the in the Anthropocene. What are the problems that face us, and why have we got solutions for them? Money. It's always money. It's always
Yeah.
like the answer is always there. So that's a vegan filter. So that's a money filter, a way to look at all the problems of our world and go, yeah, why is it? What is this God money that we keep worshiping? Because it's not really helping anything. It's really leading us over the cliff.
yeah,
It's
and
not-
I guess if I could just, I really, I mean, I'm sensing there's a little bit of a, like some tension, which is okay. A little bit of tension is okay. I really think we would be more, I know what we need. How about if we just take 3 deep breaths, and then if you don't mind, I would like to say a few words, but I just feel like we need to kind of like chill out the energy just a little bit. Does anybody object to that? Or you want a thumbs up if you're okay with 3 deep breaths? And everybody's breaths are different. Breaths, that sounds funny. And so I'll just say ding-a-ling-a-ling when I feel like the 3 breaths, my 3 breaths are done. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I've been doing this Wim Hof breathing, and my breaths are really, they take a long time. I think I'm understanding better. Thanks, Ray, for bringing up, the fact that we all have filters. And I think maybe the better word would be we all have priorities. Like we all have things that we are burning. We have a burning desire that we want to get this done now, that we think that and with Jamin, I mean, Jamin is encouraging us, like saying, if we don't get the SRM going, we're all going to be, no matter what your filter or your priority is, it's not going to go anywhere. And yet Jamin's not telling everyone just focus on SRM. And I think what I would like to focus on is we all have our priorities. And if we are allowed to just and encourage each other to focus on our priorities. And that's why I'm suggesting a base camp where that's more open than Vegan 2026. Vegan 2026 is doing, I think, phenomenal work. It's setting a model for how collective intelligence can be utilized. So I would just say that I would love to see you, Adam, going, if we had a base camp, and also you have or right now we have the 24-hour blog party to find kindred spirits who want to join you. But if we had a base camp, which I would actually love to oversee, I love base camp, then you could just start a group and just be as passionate there, and maybe gather a few people. You've already got Shiloh. I would probably join you with some, I would go over there and visit and put some resources on your resource page. And you could start gathering a group that is just really passionate about this. And I just think, and Ray, in terms of Vegan World 2026, yes, we who are there, we believe that veganism is extremely important, and yet we also know a holistic view is important too. So
what do you mean by a holistic view?
Well, I mean a holistic in terms of we don't, like, parenting is important, and the new economic system, the seven issues. So I'm a vegan, that's my passion. And yet I know that, we at Vegan 2026 are not about, like you said, Ray, we're not about forcing. However, some people might be.
Well, I'm not trying to say that, I'm not saying that money is a filter. That's not the deal.
You said money is a poison. It kind of comes across as a filter.
I said, I think
the judgment of an institution. I don't see the difference between that and meat.
Okay.
You have to explain that.
Okay. The collective intelligence on this, all areas of the world would be able to have a standard that they had to meet. I mean, if people came up with a way to use money that worked, then as long as it produced a sustainable future for the children of the world, because that should be the requirement, because otherwise humanity won't continue. So if that's the filter, now how do we get to that filter? Well, veganism is would probably fit in. Now, 100% veganism might not be what people will do, but it
I did explain
very close.
I did explain the objectives of Vegan World 2026, and they weren't 100%. I mentioned it, and the conversation kind of shifted off into different directions. But I discuss, if you recall, I said 50% of people living in cities in developed nations is our target. The reason why that, I didn't come up with that Sailesh Rao came up with that, but I think it's a genius solution, because what you're describing, Adam, is a straw man argument that people have applied to criticize veganism. That they say, well, vegans want the whole world to go vegan. In general, it's a direction, but then if the conversation gets mired in whether a fishing village in the Pacific Island is the target of veganism, there's absolutely no progress. That's creating a straw man argument that's easy to defeat, but that's not what we're saying. It's usually non-vegans that are saying the vegans are saying. So we'd like to take control of that, and I'm going to call it out anytime I see it. That if I have stated that the Vegan World 2026 is looking at specifically the diets of people in North America, specifically the people living in cities, specifically the people who have the ability to make choices for themselves. And I hear somebody who is privileged and has decided that meat eating is fine, ignoring the fact that there are people out on the front lines of climate change, people that a lot of those are the same people that we're trying to protect from veganism. It's something we have to be very clear about. It's the arguments that we make are the arguments that we make. The arguments that people want to center upon.
Well, all I'm saying
we're wildly outnumbered. There's a lot more people giving the vegan argument the way that they can debunk it than the vegans what we're claiming.
I'm not against veganism at all.
Right.
I think it's a really good solution. But we need a whole bunch of solutions. We need to take these solutions and put them into an organized plan set. So that, because when the plan set gets filled in, then it becomes a vision. And then the magic happens is people start looking at that plan set and they say, well, hey, there's a way we can go. There is a way out of this.
Mm-hmm. We've got over 24 different study groups. I'd be surprised if anybody resisted your idea, Adam, in any of them. Because that's a vegan mindset. The vegan mindset is that filter that says that violent systems have to be replaced. Yeah, we already know our favorite violent system is our food system, but we know that the monetary systems are violent. We know that interest is just something that we fight over. People invent money out of nowhere, and everybody else fights over it. We know it's a violent system that exploits so many people, puts people in prison. They invent reasons to put people in prison and privatize it so somebody can make money off of everybody's problems.
Well, all I'm saying is that we can make a vision of the future if we make the vision as a world without money. We can fulfill that requirement of providing a sustainable future
hey, Adam.
by using technology. And if people will want to try and use money, they'll try to use, say, well, there's cryptocurrency, there's all kinds of different ways. So and they should have the right to try, and they should plug their variables into the models that are unbiased. And then the models come back and say, well, will that work or not?
Mm-hmm. We're all completely behind you. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be very many people in the vegan world 2026 that isn't behind the idea that capitalism and our concepts of money have got to have a deeper vision. Sailesh isn't even necessarily an anti-capitalist in a sense, because he's created kind of capitalism that's constrained to our carbon footprint. So, take the best of capitalism, but redefine money. I just put a link there. I'm not sure if you're able to use it because it's in Basecamp, but
yeah,
it's
I can copy it.
A Queer study group talking about, we need to come up with, you start with a new definition of wealth. What is wealth? And how can we share it with the world? Because money doesn't work right. It doesn't, and giving everybody the same amount of money doesn't make sense, because there's people I live in Canada, we need more money for our heating bill and so forth than they do, people living at the equator.
I've heard many scientists say that it would take the collapse of civilization in order for humanity to have the kind of reduce its carbon footprint enough to effectively respond to climate change.
Yeah, we're 6 times our consumption.
Right.
We have 6 times the amount of consumption that we'd need if we were to be equal across the board. So,
right.
Paying attention to your food, obviously, that's one that we actually have control over. I don't have a lot of control over. Sorry.
What I'm saying is that we can plan that world. We can plan that future. If we don't have to include the calculations of finances, if we don't have to include how people, and it gives us a different mindset. It gives us the mindset that makes decisions based on wisdom instead of based on money.
Patricia, please stop interrupting. We have a system here. You've had a lot of opportunity to speak.
I'm really
You've
sorry.
just interrupted Adam several times.
I'm really sorry. I'm not sure. This is a really, thank you for being so kindly asking me not to interrupt. However,
You're doing it anyway.
yeah, well, I guess that maybe sounds like you're frustrated. And you really want me
Oh,
to let
I see
you
a
guys.
hypocrisy here that you've criticized people for not obeying the rules. You're all about rules, but then you break the rules and then you just keep talking. You've interrupted us a few times. You've had plenty of opportunity to speak. It's or maybe you think that you haven't been heard. Do you need more? You've interrupted our conversation I was having with Adam, but I'll let you take over the conversation.
Bye,
Email me.
Shiloh. Well, I guess this is a really good situation right here because it is difficult to know how to facilitate a conversation when we're when one person is really, the conversation can go so fast that between two people, and then if another person wants to jump in, there's no space for that, and I apologize for interrupting. It's not what I prefer to do, and it sounds like you think, I mean, I felt disappointed, Ray, when you said you're being hypocritical, little bit of a judgment there. Would you agree that's a judgment, that I'm hypocritical?
I'd be willing to listen to your defense.
And you also said, well, that I was breaking I'm all about rules, right? You said I'm all about rules. And that I'm breaking rules. Is that right?
Hey
Is
guys,
that right, Ray?
I'm going to take a break here because I need to get a rest before the next marathon meeting starting at 3. But you guys continue, and it's still recording, and unless you guys would rather not record. But anyway, please carry on. Great discussion.
Oh, let's record.
Carry on.
Thanks, Jamin.
I know what you mean about like you don't want the conversation to move on when you have something to say about what's being said. I don't see what you're saying right now related to what Adam and I were talking about.
Well, no, because.
But now you want to talk about. I've disagreed with you.
Well, and I kind of have to agree with Ray a little bit because we were actually having an intelligent discussion, and you took it to be like we were really getting inflated and well, I mean, that's how men talk. So to me, I was just having a discussion. I wasn't ready to slam him in the face or anything,
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if you were, like that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually appreciate it because when I had just previous to that, I had my spilled out a bunch of ideas and I had run out of breath. So I think it was probably starting to affect my demeanor as well. But that's why I quickly muted and then took a few breaths myself. So
okay.
I think it's a good thing if people are feeling that there's energy and tension. I was speaking fast, and sometimes that can be interpreted as aggression as well. So if people are feeling that there's aggression building, it's always good to take a moment and take a few steps back.
Yeah, I think another. So I'm glad that you felt an agreement. Well, Adam, you didn't think, but so now we in these groups we're going to be having different needs, and so I think one of the problems is I am not an official facilitator. I privately messaged Jamin to ask him, I wanted him to, I felt like things were getting out of hand. You guys, I mean, I had an experience on the 24-hour block party where energy started spiraling out of control, but it started at a small level. And so I don't mind tension. I'm okay with disagreement. And I'm just going to conclude by, okay, I would rather Jamin facilitate, because since I'm not the facilitator, I don't have the power to say, okay, I don't really have the permission. You see me as interrupting and breaking rules, but if I was the facilitator, you might be okay. Do you think you'd be okay with it if I said, wait a minute, guys? Would you feel more comfortable, Ray, if you felt like I was the official facilitator, or if Jamin did it?
Well, Adam had some things to say, and I wanted to hear what he had to say, but you kept cutting him off, and you were distracting to me. So I had a hard time understanding what Adam was saying. And you're telling me now that you were trying to interrupt us because you thought that we were having a disagreement.
No.
But Adam said that we were having an intelligent conversation. So don't ignore these, you have to be listening, right? Active listening?
Okay, so what I have to, okay, you know what? I want to go.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you talk about it. When I said that you're all about rules, maybe that's not a fair thing to say, but you do have a lot to say about rules and about conduct. And it surprised me that you were interrupting, because Jamin has said that that's not the way that we engage our conversations.
Well,
usually don't. I mean, it seemed out of character to me, so I'm not really that concerned about it.
Yeah, and I felt uncomfortable. You know, this would be a time where we could say, oh, let's move on and let's talk about the intelligent conversation. At the same time, Ray, if you're calling me hypocritical,
I'm going to interrupt you now. I don't think it's your place to say that our conversation is done and it's time to move on. That's not democratic.
No.
You've already said that you're not the moderator, so I'm not sure why you'd think that it's your responsibility to tell us to stop talking and move on.
I wasn't saying that. I was saying some people might want me to not do this processing. Some people might think this is not relevant. And so that's what I'm saying. And yet I think it's part of the culture that we're creating, that when we have conflicts, we try to resolve them, because I perceive that there is a conflict. When you say things like you're a hypocrite and you say
you're selectively remembering, though. Adam said that there wasn't a conflict, so you've made a mistake.
No, there's
it would be a good time now for you to own it and talk about that instead of. I mean, you have derailed the conversation. I can't remember where we were in our conversation, because, and I don't find it acceptable to interrupt any conversation because you think that process needs to be served.
No, I did. I'm not saying that I was trying to interrupt because there was a conflict, except for when I just asked for 3 deep breaths. When I was interrupting before, I was just I wanted to participate in the conversation. I felt like I had something to contribute to the conversation. And I'm just confused as to how, people can go on for a long time.
Do you remember what it was that you wanted to say? Because you could resume, and that would get us right back to where we were.
I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to resolve this with you at another time, probably with Jackie present.
Sure.
To help us to talk about this, okay? Are you willing to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And so what I was going to say was, Adam, I really think that if Ray could, you're talking to the perfect person. Perfect. Hey, Ray, show me your dimple. Come on, show me your dimple. I'll show
Sorry, are you
mine.
referring to me as the perfect person?
Yes.
Yeah, you got a dimple.
See, we both have one dimple. So we have to have a little laughter to lighten things up. Because Ray and I really like each other and we're going to work this out. Right, Ray? Right?
Well,
Okay.
Jamin's really good at that. He's he's able to work with people and let people, express their own opinions, and he's really good at that.
Yeah, he is. So he's great. Okay, so what I was going to say, Adam, is what I wanted to, when I was trying to insert myself in that conversation, was that I would absolutely love it if you would join the base camp and be part of either the Aquarius group or the new economy, and just get to know some people there and see what's been written, the materials there, insert some stuff. You don't have to be, you can just come and visit, right, Ray? We're not going to pin him down and try to make him a vegan. Nobody's going to ask him if he's a vegan. It's not like church, and churches are getting better about that. So I'm just wondering, Adam, if you would just visit our base camp and get a sense of that energy, because really there is a new world being created there. And I'm going to encourage Jamin to do a base camp that is similar, that where it's not vegan, and I'm sure you'll love. That might take a little while, but I'm sensing that you are just yearning to get your voice out there, and this would be a place where you would be really welcome. Would you say? What do you say, Ray? You think he would be welcome?
Yeah.
Well, I think I would come there to talk about what I'm trying to build, or trying to say, and all I'm saying is that we can have that vision of a sustainable future if we build it as a world without money. I don't think it's possible to build that vision as a world with money, because the money always gets in the way. There's always in the problem, and everything all of the destruction of the world has come about because we use money, because those of us who are born, and this is why I say it's a poison, because those of us that are born into the world of money, that's the first world, we grow up learning how to survive in this world of money. And it gives us the perception, which I call a false perception, that our survival depends on money.
So Adam,
so then we'll do anything that we have to make money. And it just depends on what level you're born into. The movers and shakers of the world come out of probably the top 10% who have 50% of the world's wealth. Well, if it comes out of the top 10%, if the world, you look around the world and you see the concrete jungle, and how we've, all the corporations and everything. Well, the world of money created this. And it's not the third world that's really doing the damage. They're not the ones that are driving the cars and flying in the airplanes and eating the exorbitant amounts of meat. It's our world that's doing it. So, but we won't be able to change. I think we need to have a vision of that. We have before we can change. And all I'm saying is that we don't have a vision of it, and I don't know how. I would come we'll come to the vegan meeting, not today, but and learn more about it. But I don't think. Well,
Well, I think Patricia's suggestion was right, that the Aquarius group is the link that I gave there. They're talking about cryptocurrency. They're talking about wealth. They're barely talking about veganism at all. It's all about money and the commerce, and it's just like a vegan perspective on once you want a non-violent monetary system, what does that look like? So, this is veganism, that's what I mean by the vegan filter. It's this attitude of non-violence, trying to make it the least violent system. And you can't get violence out of everything entirely, because there's a certain amount of tribalism that's just inherent in localities, that everybody wants to protect themselves, their family, and then you decide how big that family is. It'd be great if the family was the whole planet. And that's denationalizing is a huge part of it, because countries are competing for money. That's why they don't want to be leaders in climate change. They're playing a game of you first. Every COP summit, you first. You compromise your economy first. Take away all your fossil fuels. We'll be over here burning it. And
that's why I go back to the hunter-gatherers that lived with the big animals, because they lived for 300,000 years on our planet and didn't destroy our planet. So they lived in very small numbers. So this was the Garden of Eden. But since after the asteroid hit, that it changed everything about our lives. We didn't have the big animals to hunt with respect anymore. We didn't live in that animal kingdom anymore. So we essentially started over again, and we made mistakes. And one of the mistakes we made was to start abusing animals by turning them into money. So, I mean, and it's progressed to the point today where we live in an artificial world, and money has built this world, and it's designed to make money, and it's very tricky. It causes us to destroy the world by proxy. We pay others to do the dirty work. I mean, we're all guilty. It's not. It's just the way our way of life. I mean, you can cut out eating meat, but we also need to reduce our carbon footprint. I mean, we need to stop burning fossil fuels. Well, so how can we do all this? Well, I haven't seen us doing it. What I'm saying is that we can do it. We can make a whole plan that would lead us into a sustainable future, if that plan was of a world that didn't use money. Because then we make our decisions based on wisdom instead of based on money. So they say corporations rule the world. Well, the real leader of a corporation is not human, it's money. Because all decisions of a for-profit corporation are made with no matter what they do or what propaganda they're saying. The bottom line is a corporation has to make money, and that's what they base all their decisions are based on money. So money is the ruler of the world. It's
stolen us of all of our levers of democracy, I believe. Since
I
the
agree.
Powell memo in the 70s, it's just been downhill from there, and we don't really have any voice.
Yeah, and it's been going on, ever since civilization began, since we started herding animals.
Well, I loved your mention of the meteor, because that's when the mammals took over. That's when primate evolution began, was after the death of the last dinosaurs. So there's 23 million years of primate evolution, and you mentioned 200,000 years of hunter gathering, and really only the last 50,000 years were the organized hunting where hunting was the priority of the tribe. And that seems like a long time, 50,000 years, but obviously compared to 23 million years, it's a drop in the ocean. And there was a shift from gatherer hunters to hunter gatherers. And I've heard it argued that that's the beginning of the patriarchy, that's when the equality between men and women started to shift towards the men because they were the hunters. So it's a fascinating idea. It's a bit of an essentialist argument, because just because science says it was like this in the past and this is our past, there's no reason why we can't reject a lot of it. But it does give us a lot of clues as to how we should behave. And part of it is we were prey for most of that 23 million years.
That's what you assume.
Well, there's huge piles of human bones in the saber-toothed tiger cave with two big teeth marks in the back of the skull. But again, these are essentialist arguments. They don't really amount to much more than playing with history.
Well, what I'm saying is that the dinosaurs went extinct. That was the fifth mass extinction, and it happened 65 million years ago. And the Earth gets hit by asteroids a lot more frequently than we think. In fact, every 330,000 years, an asteroid big enough to wipe out 1/4 of humanity today on Earth hits our Earth. So I think, personally, I think our Mother Earth is like a living entity. And I think that, she's being forced to drive us off the Earth because we don't respect the Earth anymore. We've lost respect for life, and we don't seem to be getting that respect back. So I think that she initially put us on the Earth for two reasons. We are the most intelligent life on the Earth. So she put us on the Earth, and we started incubating. Our incubation began after the dinosaurs. So I think that she made us to be caretakers of the garden, and to grow in intelligence and wisdom so that we could someday be able to deflect asteroids and protect our planet from collisions from space. But that's just my thoughts.
And are you familiar with the early Anthropocene hypothesis that through all of our agriculture that we've been doing all this horrible deforestation and desertification, it's actually eliminated an ice age? We actually did something good by our poor behavior. That's the hand of God right there. I find so much spiritual fascination with we thought we were smart. We thought we were dominating the earth, but we seem to have been put here, and we created the most biodiversity that the earth has seen in the past millions of years by accident, by doing something, that was according to our nature. But like you said, we should have a high level of intelligence. We have this cerebral cortex, which is our most important gland in our body. Hopefully it's going to be able to it's our survival instinct that will get us out of this problem, and then assume that role as the thermostat species, which is what Sailesh says. We now have all the tools that we learned from our bad behavior, not just agriculture, but military. We got the internet from the military. Almost every innovation is military. So more bad behavior, yet now we can measure. We wouldn't even know climate change was a problem if we didn't have the ability to measure the climate. So now we have all the tools to be the thermostat species. That's, yay, Mother Earth, you're one step ahead of humanity. We do have the possibility to end ourselves, and that would be unfortunate, and no thermostat species there. But if that's the way it turns out, isn't that a testament to nature and how she saw some use for a ape that knew how to use tools?
Well, I think it's, I have a little bit different view, I guess. I think that we lived in essentially in the Garden of Eden all over the world. And new technology is coming out all the time with the advances of computer processors. And now they have this thing called LiDAR, so they can fly over the ground and get three-dimensional images underneath the ground. They can go down like 100 feet. And so they're finding out more and more all the time. And, we're finding out that we used to, and we aren't told this. I mean, I would never learn that I didn't realize we lived with huge animals. So we had a different mindset back then. We didn't use money. And we kept our populations were small. It was natural. We lived by nature. We didn't break the law of life, I call it. And the law of life is that life adapts to nature. It doesn't work the other way around. If one species decided to make nature adapt to it, that would mean that all the other species of life would have to adapt to whatever that species made nature adapt to. So that's what humans have been doing. Before the asteroid hit 12,000 or almost 13,000 years ago, we were changing and there was things happening. We're still a young species growing up, and we don't really know completely how to live on the Earth yet. But we had matured quite a bit. And then after that asteroid hit, I think it knocked humanity down. I mean, I've heard that it sent us into caves. It changed our lives. Then all of a sudden we don't have the big animals to hunt anymore. So we start.
Wait a minute, are you talking about the extinction of the dinosaurs?
No, the dinosaurs went extinct like 65 million years ago.
Yeah, I think I said 23 million years.
No, it's 65. I can show you on a chart if you want. So the asteroid I'm talking about hit, there were actually a number of asteroids hit our planet around 13,000 years ago. And it drove our planet into a short but powerful ice age called the Younger Dryas. And I've heard that during this time, it essentially sent our hunter-gatherer ancestors into caves. And when the ice age ended, or I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but we left the life of hunter-gatherers, and we entered the life of agriculture and herding. And Joseph Campbell, who was a writer of ancient civilizations, myths especially, he said that the agricultural people were more matriarchal because they lived closer to the ground. They had more of a sense of Mother Earth. But the herding people were more patriarchal because they had to defend their animals and from other animals, and and from thieves and stuff. And so they had to become more fierce. And plus, both agricultural or herding animals causes an increase of population. It's automatic. And so you have an increase of population, which creates competition. And then when you start eating meat, I mean, there's a big difference. You start eating meat, and it changes the mind. It makes you fierce. And then we look and we see that it's the people that ate the meat I mean, there's a big difference between hunting animals with respect and leaving a little bit for the other animals to eat. And and there's a big difference between that and having a herd of animals that somebody comes over for dinner, so you go grab an animal out of, and kill it and eat it. Without any respect. So they had to harden their hearts against the animals. And then their populations keep growing, so they become more fierce. And pretty soon they're invading other people. And we see this.
Is that maybe crossing the line of science? Is there's evidence that shows that meat eating causes humans to be more violent? Because that would be an argument that we need to get rid of the meat eating, because we're now 7.5 billion people, and we have to stop fighting. We have to stop justifying violence. The violence that justified by all our earlier civilizations, that all has to stop now. That's not an option. We have nuclear bombs now. We have to learn how to make friends. So, I mean, so I'm suggesting it's not really, nutritional science. And if it is, then we have evidence that we need to stop meat right away.
Well, we ate meat before. I mean, the standard that we have of the perfect life that was the hunter-gatherers that lived here for 300,000 years that were Homo sapiens. And before
the ones that lived in Africa didn't need as much hunting. It was when they left Africa that they needed more hunting, because they're going to further away from the equator, more need to wear the animal skins, and that is technically the end of nature, in the sense that is the beginning of what is man-made. What is man-made invention as opposed to nature? People wearing skins isn't anything that represents nature. It's innovation. It's survival. And people still live in the far north and live those kinds of lifestyles. And that's fine. But as far as an essentialist argument that that's what we have to do, all this is pre 7.5 billion people going on 11 billion people. All the rules have changed. So where we eat on the food web, most of our existence has been eating plants. Most of our hominid existence has been eating plants as omnivorous gatherer hunters and omnivores of opportunity, just eating whatever's available. You don't need to cook. I mean, cooking was a big innovation, but you don't need to cook insects to eat them.
Well, I personally think that they had good lives. I think they had a lot better lives than we think. And whether they were all the same or not, I don't think so. But I think they're the standard of a good life. Anthropologists who studied these ancient people say that their average population was about 10 million or less people on the whole earth, and they did live predominantly in the equatorial warmer regions, and so modern tribes have hunter-gatherers have been asked why they didn't want to enjoy and turn into the ways of civilization. And they say that they've had stories passed down to them that tell of prior hunter-gatherer tribes who started to plant and herd. And immediately what happens is their populations explode. And so then they wanted to, the stories they tell say that the people come back and they say, well, we want to return. And they say, well, you can't be hunters and gatherers again because you have too many people. So then that's when I think their eyes were opened, because they realized they couldn't return. So their populations keep growing, and then we get hit by an asteroid, and it changes our lives. I'm having a hard time explaining this. I'm a lot better at writing, and I've been making some videos and than expressing it verbally. You're a pretty good talker, but people.
We mentioned that our first currency was animals. If we quit money, then when we go back to trading chickens and livestock again?
No, okay. Let me show you. Let me do a screen share, and I'll show you something. And let me see. This would be. Okay. No, it'd be, I know, okay. I get too rushed and I can't think. View. Okay. Okay, now I can see. Okay. So this is a logarithmic scale. So on the vertical, this is the population of the world. And the science says that we started living on hunter-gatherers. We're living on the Earth about 315,000 years ago. That was Homo sapiens. And there's talk that that we didn't actually become the modern type of Homo sapiens until like 50,000 years ago or something like that. But,
I would argue that we were gatherer hunters until 100,000 years ago.
Well, anyway, so this is the information I've found. So we had 10 million or less people on the Earth for all this time. And then the asteroid hits. And our lives changed. So it's because we started entering agriculture and we started planting and herding. Well, the planters, they were less fierce people. It was the hunters that were the most fierce. And Joseph Campbell said that they had to, that the planting people had to build walls around their cities to protect themselves from the herding people.
So you're not meaning nutritionally meat makes us more aggressive. You mean like culturally, those places that had to rely on meat had a closer relationship with survival and therefore were more aggressive in making sure that they had resources and so forth.
Well, I think what happened is they were, they started using money or animals. They would invade other places, and they were more fierce. So when they invaded other tribes, they would take slaves, and the people with the most animals would be able to trade more animals for slaves. So animals became the first form of money. And I think when we were herding animals and we started using animals for money, I think that's probably when we were introduced. The poison that comes from money was introduced to us. I don't have any proof. That's just my own thought. But I think that's how it came about. So since then, and you see that the first form of money, it's reflected in the stock market, stocks and bonds. Even the word capitalism comes from the word kappa, which and so that's when money was born. And if you look at throughout our civilization for the rest of the time, the use of money has always destroyed. We've never lived since we started using animals and our population started growing. And this all happened after those big animals that we used to live with died. So, I mean, I think there's something that happened there to humanity that changed us.
Yeah, and that's the early Anthropocene hypothesis that we started changing the Earth with agriculture. But there's an even earlier hypothesis that the Anthropocene started when we killed off the megafauna, and so that's. I mean, we have been affecting the planet for quite a long time, just to different degrees. And it doesn't take a huge population to set fires. Once they realize, hey, I could burn down forests just by starting a fire and let the wind do the rest. A lot of deforestation could be done by very few people.
No, well, the information I've found says that they didn't even fight amongst themselves. I mean, there's not that much evidence that they lived in small groups, 40 or 50 or 60 people, and their population lifespans were more in the 50 to 70 year range. They weren't. There wasn't 25 years like we think, or like we've been taught.
And even in Columbus's time, I remember Howard Zinn pointed out something in Columbus's notes that the indigenous people that they met in North America didn't have any system of war where they went to fight for somebody else. It was there was disputes over things, over ownership and space, but there wasn't anything that was the equivalent of war where a leader said, everybody get together, let's go take them out. They also said there's incredible equality between the men and women in the tribes. And he's kind of marveling at it at an anthropological sense and kind of scorning it and saying, look how primitive these people are.
Because
and then justifying their slaughter.
They were planting. When Columbus landed in America, I've heard that there were already 60 million natives here in America. And so their populations had already increased because the average was 10 million or less. And so they had already, they're just, I think they're just adjusting. They turn to planting because they don't have the big animals to hunt or live with anymore. So they have to start over and learn how to live on the earth again. Well, so over in Europe, in that area, we're starting over too. So, but over there, they start herding animals. And there's a big difference in respect and respect and love of life. I mean, we broke the law of life.
Yeah, and those indigenous peoples never had anything like animal husbandry where we put animals in a pen and keep animals to be slaughtered later. They had hunting, but they also had cultural stories that said that the animals were their brothers. Why would you wouldn't put a pen, you wouldn't put a deer inside a cage, you wouldn't put it inside a fence.
They didn't sell land.
So this is all a colonial innovation, animal agriculture. They were doing lots of beans, corns, and squash.
Well, that's where money originated. Was animals were the first form of money. Mm-hmm. And money causes us to act insane.
And I think cattle were also the first. There's some language. Was it Sanskrit? Is it Indian? That the word for war translates into steal somebody's cattle. Let's go get somebody's cattle. Was essentially the first use of the word war.
Yeah. So the people that start eating animals or herding animals develop this mindset that uses money. And it's a real tricky mindset. If a virus can, for instance, can sweep through a forest and only take out one kind of tree, and that tree's uniqueness is what it is also its vulnerable. It makes it vulnerable to the virus. Well, our uniqueness is our intelligence. And I think that we have been attacked, and you could call it a virus if you want. I think it's more like a poison. I think that the poison is something that we acquired when we started using herding animals and treating them and turning them into money. Because and the reason I call it a poison is because it makes us it makes us make decisions based on money instead of wisdom or common sense. I mean, no people on any planet, if they no life on Earth would expect to live very long if we took big risks. So why do we take big risks? I mean, we encourage the nuclear power industry before we even know how to dispose of the radioactive waste. We take a huge risk. And why do we do that? We do it for money. And our 20% that lives in the first world, it causes, we don't realize it. We don't realize it, but it causes us to act insane. It causes us to think we're doing right when we're really doing wrong. It's like parents, for example. Parents will get up in the morning and they'll get in their car and drive to work with a good feeling in themselves that they're providing a future for their children. But the reality is that the fossil fuels they're burning is destroying the future for their children.
I switched my background to the law of diffusion of innovation. And that chasm there is at 16%. You mentioned 20%. And that's an interesting thought that were this the shift to a more or less violent system, whatever the system might be, people are profiting from it are those laggards at the end. They don't want it to change. So even though they're back here, they're the last 16%, they're going to fight for money until it's dead, until either money's dead or they are. They're fighting. The battleground is right here. These are all the people that are trying to change our monetary system, and they're coming up with cryptocurrencies and whatever. And the battle is being fought right here. Once you get to 16%, so that's pretty close to 20%, that's where everything changes. That's where the early majority goes, okay, this is a real thing, let's jump on board. And then the late majority jumps on board because they don't want to get left behind. And these guys are resisting the entire way. But past that chasm, they're done. This is something that's going to happen. It's if the innovation was flat screen TVs, doesn't matter how much you like tube TVs, here come the flat screens and you're not going to be able to buy them anymore at some point. So this all depends on whether innovations can apply to shifts of human culture. And I mean, a lot of technology is connected to human culture, so it's very easy to see how these shifts happen. But that tipping point past which an idea is just a foregone conclusion, convincing that early majority is key. And I think, like I mentioned, that I think that your philosophy fits perfectly into all of our groups for Vegan World 2026, because we understand that there's systems that need to change, and we know when there's violence being committed and this huge shift between we're getting more rich people and more poor people, and we need to find systems to solve that. The trickle-down economy is, finally people are understanding that it's not a thing, it's not real.
Well, it really causes us to destroy the world and our own world. I mean, in nature, no animal will purposely foul its own nest on, that goes against life. But we foul our own nest.
And to a degree, it's not even us. It's our corporations that don't have a brain at all. They've just been trained to follow the dollar, make every decision based on a dollar. You're going to replace every CEO with software that says, does it make money? Which one makes the most money? Choose that.
Right.
That's not even thinking. That's just following the dollar.
Right.
I don't even think there's any people in this category. It's just corporations.
Well, I mean, the bottom line of corporation is, to a large degree, it's the stockholders.
Yeah, and they're all here.
All they care about is
their stocks are here, but they're here. They may think that they don't want innovation, but they want to live. They know if this climate change thing is real, I got to make some money in the meantime until somebody proves to me that it's real. I can prove it to you when you don't want to believe it, but.
And so when we make money, and we don't want to lose or we don't want to give up our money, so we adapt the attitude that the strong survive.
Yeah,
we get our strength from money, and it's artificial. And
they're so invested in social Darwinism, they forget the other kind exists. And I mentioned earlier, our survival instinct, our survival organ is our cerebral cortex, our ability to solve problems. If you've given up and you've given all the control to money, we're toast, because it's not going to solve our problems. And a lot of people thinking billionaires are the way to go. Billionaires are going to solve the problems. They're unconsciously here. Anything that made you a billionaire is going to, consciously or subconsciously, you're going to undermine any attempt to change the system that made you great. You see, Bill Gates got lots of ideas, but they all involve money, and they all involve him being able to solve ideas with his piles of cash. And
but you can't make. See, that's why I say money is a poison. Now, I mean, we're all human beings. I mean, you could be a billionaire. I mean, we don't get to choose what womb we're born from. I mean, the homeless person could have been the president. So we don't get to choose. So I'm losing my train of thought. I'm really tired. I'm gonna have to go to bed pretty quick. But
we only got a little while left before the next group is going to come in, the collective intelligence.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I won't be able to stick around for that. But
are you coming to the 24-hour block party on Friday?
Yeah, I'll come. I'll join then, off and on. But yeah, I've been working on my own website and developing videos, trying to get this concept out to people.
I'm going to try to get the money people, the Aquarius study group. I think that is the working title for their cryptocurrency, but they're looking at full systems of currency and wealth. And they said, you got to start with redefine wealth, because everything that we think about wealth right now is extremely violent, competitive, and we need a system that acknowledges that every earthling is supposed to be here, right?
Right. So we're born in this world of money, and like I said, we learn how to survive in it. So
have you heard of Sailesh's Ahimsa coin and his concept?
I don't think so.
I have it extracted from his book, so I could share you a PDF of it. It's very interesting. I mean, I mentioned before that he's taken capitalism and constrained it to the footprint that's legitimate to us on the planet. So if everybody that's subscribed to it, we give half the earth back to the animals, like E.O. Wilson's half earth solution, and the remaining half is divided amongst 7.5 billion people to 9 billion people. And based on that, everybody's entitled to a square meter of ground square meter of productivity of the earth for 55 minutes. So you get paid cryptocurrency every 55 minutes if you're part of the system. So if that were instituted worldwide, there would be no poverty because nobody would be poor, nobody would be broke for more than 55 minutes. And then if it's you get past 9 billion people, then the time frame goes longer period of time before you.
Well, you have to do something about the population growth. I mean,
this is all the population, already an incentive for not growing the population. And the UN knows, I mean, for all the dumb things the UN comes up with, the one thing they do know to a T is that population is linked to poverty. The next billion people, or 95% of them, are going to be born in Africa and Asia. It's not us. It's where we come in is we're setting the consumption threshold. What does middle class consumption look like? Well, it looks like an American driving around his SUV and sucking down burgers.
That's why I said money builds a world of money that's designed to make money. And we grow up with this false perception that our survival depends on money.
Yeah.
So that makes us do anything for money. And we think our survival depends on money. So we put money, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, money is, well, humanity and all life on Earth lives with nature as the bottom, as the base. Well, we think money is the base. So our entire lives is built on top of a false perception. And so
you hear that, Mom? My mom is definitely not listening to this, but you hear that, Mom?
we put nature up in a higher level. I mean, no, we don't work for food. We work for a paycheck. Well, this puts a middleman into the system that doesn't really need to be there at all.
We compete with everybody else to get that paycheck. It's a violent system that's not based on abundance. We could feed the whole world. We just don't.
Right, because that's the way money is. It causes us, I mean, it causes us to destroy the world by proxy. I mean, a person can walk into the store and buy and pick a package of meat off the shelf, and all they care about is the price tag, is the price and the expiration date. And they don't have one thought about the animal.
Mm.
So that's the system that we live in. And as long as, the way I see it, as long as money exists, it's always going to put, people aren't going to let go of their money. So, and in order,
we need you to get everybody to change this perception, and we need to support you. We need to support that message.
No, what I'm trying to say is that we need to get, in order to get out of this, we need to have a vision. We need to be able to plan, have a whole complete set of plans that tell us everything to do, everything that we have to do.
Hey guys, just FYI, I don't know if it's going to disconnect you guys, but I'm going to have to close up my computer, and because I got to get to the office to kick off the next meeting, which Ray is also going to be on. You're welcome to join us as well, Adam. Anyway, I'll be shutting down in about 2 minutes, so I don't know if that's what you guys talking about. But anyway.
I wanted to say, right near the beginning of the meeting, you said that your plan is a good backup plan for Jamin's concepts of solar radiation management. I thought you're selling yourself short. This is a front burner topic, but it's one that it necessarily requires convincing everybody. Unfortunately,
no.
So it's something that we have to start immediately. Start changing our attitudes. It's a simultaneous plan. It's
not that. It's just a way of creating a vision or planning the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can plan a new sustainable future, and we can use the artificial intelligence and the computer processing to answer the questions that we don't have answers to. But we can become movable, and we can actually do that in a world that doesn't use money.
Mm-hmm. So for Vegan World 2026, every solution every group has to keep in mind shift solutions. How do you work in the system we're in now and get to something? But we need that new model solution as well. We need to know where we're going. We need to
Right.
have a concept of where it is. And every one of our systems should imagine a future that has